Welcome back to Fast Money. Check out Bitcoin dropping another 7% today as China intensifies its crackdown on crypto mining. The news hitting some crypto-related stocks as well. Big names like MicroStrategy and Coinbase falling deep into the red. So let's trade this around. I mean, every time crypto makes a big move, I just don't even know what to make of it. Tim, help me get this straight. What happened?
The charts look challenging, and the charts definitely, I think, whether you are a pure technical chartist or even some of the folks in the middle of this, I think there's an argument here that there's still a test at 25 to come, and possibly even 20,000, which is something that Carter's talked about. I think, look, a lot of the short-term sentiment is around China's restrictions. I think there's also a lot of sentiment really around last week and where the Fed is. I mean, I thought it was very interesting how Bitcoin kind of grew up last week. In some sense, it behaved as if the correlations inverse to the dollar and to Fed interest rate policy and hawkishness, dovishness was very impressive for an asset class that at times people thought really wasn't about being a store of value or digital gold. So that's an interesting observation, I think, from last week.
For more on this, let's bring in our own crypto baller, Brian Kelly. He joins us on the fast line. BK, what do you make of the move in Bitcoin today? As Tim said, the charts are challenging.
Yeah, no, I think actually Tim made some really good points here. The charts are challenging. If you think about what's happened over the last, let's call it 4 to 5 days or the last week or so, you did have Bitcoin trade with the Federal Reserve, which is something we have not seen in the history of Bitcoin. As well, you do have this negative China news, which, it seems like every couple of years China bans Bitcoin and Bitcoin bounces back. So in the long run, I still think we're okay, but I agree. It looks heavy, and we'll see what happens at 30,000 here. We really need to hold 30,000.
I mean, BK, a move of 9.5% is pretty severe for most things. For Bitcoin, not so much. Whatever will keep the volatility of this cryptocurrency in check, or will it not? Is that just the nature of what we're dealing with when we're talking about cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, one, this is normal volatility for Bitcoin. It is a normal part of the bull cycles that Bitcoin had. I mean, in 2017, we had multiple 30 to 50% pullbacks in these assets. So the volatility will die down if this becomes a currency. And so as you have more players than just speculators in there, you have companies using it globally in the supply chain. They're going to want to hedge risk. They're going to not necessarily be natural buyers. They may be sellers. So that'll tamp down the volatility. And, folks like me, volatility junkies like me, will probably be bored with the volatility, but it'll be a good thing for Bitcoin because that means it has matured into a full-blown currency.
Hey, BK, it's Jeff Mills. How's it going? Two real quick questions for you. So we're talking about the charts being challenged. I've heard a number of different downsides cited. You mentioned 30,000. People have pointed to that December 2017 high at 20,000. Where do you think the most likely area of support is, number one? And then I know today there were some headlines flying around about some of the chip makers, the impact there relative to some of the technology for Bitcoin mining. So what do you think the impact is there long term, if any?
Yeah, so in the short term, 30,000 on Bitcoin, we have to hold that. The way there's a lot of leverage in Bitcoin right now. So if we break through 30,000, you could see a pretty swift downdraft like we saw a few weeks ago. So we'll see what happens with that. In terms of the chip makers and what's happening with mining, you're seeing the hash rate come down. And the hash rate is basically how much mining power is directed at the Bitcoin network at any given time. And that's because the Chinese miners shut off those machines. But those machines aren't gone forever. They're actually migrating to other parts of the world. So in the long run, what you're going to see is a more diversified and decentralized mining infrastructure that'll likely be a lot more green than it was in China. But until we get to that point, yeah, you're gonna hear about chip makers not getting orders and all of that. There are machines for sale, and you can pick up some mining machines, used mining machines, which you may not need the extra chip, the brand new chip for that. But eventually, this will come back, and you're going to want to put the latest and greatest technology towards the Bitcoin mining network.
Thank you for calling in, BK. Eunice Yoon was actually talking about how some of the equipment is actually being shipped from China to Maryland or Virginia. She had confirmed that a big amount of it actually earlier today. Thank you.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.